Hi, everybody. This is a quick elucidation before you get into this very good episode on Politics at Home with Holmes. And so we wanted to clarify our intentions of why we're doing an interview with another Ward 14 candidate when our official endorsement is Keener Hachey.
Yes, we fully endorse Keener, and our intention is to vote for him. And we're not going to be interviewing all candidates. That is not our intention. This is our show, and we'll get to choose who we'd want to interview. But it was just because there was a huge curiosity on Maddie and I's part. And when we got to know Erin, we were like, oh, there's some really good ideas here, in the sense where we want to do a service to our community in the sense of promoting and encouraging discussion of good ideas.
Yeah. And the biggest thing is this is our ward. This whole interview and the curiosity me and MayCee had was to better understand actually the values of our community. This is the person that a couple people have shown signs and they're endorsing. And to better understand our community, we got to go after the people that they intend to vote for, because that's a reflection of their values.
And also, we encourage and support ABC, a Better Calgary Party. I want to make sure I have this clarification that I actually would have encouraged someone like Erin to join the ABC party, because when I was kind of like listening to her and her perspective throughout this, I was thinking that it's like, she's right in the sense that you don't want echo chambers, and ABC has kind of set themselves up for they don't want to get caught in an echo chamber. That's why they don't want to do toting party lines, and that was actually one of the reasons why we loved Keener, and I would say that Erin and Keener would agree on the party line aspect. That's why I would actually encourage someone like Erin to get involved in, like, join a board or something to hold people accountable, as she wishes to do in city council. And my understanding of Keener is that his drive will take him well beyond what the results of this election are.
And it already has. Me and MayCee, we did mean it when we said we've been friends with Keener for a couple years now, and he's on multiple boards for other things too. So his involvement is not, it's not this
it
political.
Expands well beyond
Councilor, beyond a political position. He's a really active citizen, and as active citizens, we are on board with that, which is part of the rapport and why our endorsement goes to Keener, just because there's a long history already of effort and care into this thing, and that's not to undermine Erin in the least, because again, this was a good interview and we enjoyed talking to her. She seems to have good values and stuff.
And there's definitely, like, again, this is more so the encouragement of civil discussion, free speech, and,
absolutely,
just good ideas. Because that's the whole point, is we don't want to get caught in the politics of it, as Erin actually tries to even expound.
And that's the point of this whole elucidation, is to honor Erin, who we did a fun interview with, Keener, who is our friend and our personal endorsement, ABC party, which we do, despite the controversy, believe there is a place for, and our community, ourselves. We're just trying to keep all of this in mind, because there's multiple factors that go into this, like MayCee said, beyond the politics.
I definitely think that this was a good interview for those who want to explore who Erin is, if they themselves are curious. But yeah, so this was just our point of clarification, and then I guess now you can get on with the interview.
Hi, everybody. This is At Home with Holmes, Politics at Home with Holmes again, and this is an exciting one. This is actually a person we are meeting for the first time, and she's also a neighbor of ours, so that's a little bit sad on our part. Talk about the stereotype of youth, meeting people online and never engaging with anybody in person. No, but the point of this is to change that. This is Erin Averbukh. She's actually running for Ward 14. And I saw a bunch of your signs poking up in the neighborhood, and I went, there's no way that I'm just gonna drive past these every day and not learn anything about the individual. I'm like, even if I've interviewed other people and we know I'm like, I gotta know and learn the story.
Yeah.
You're in our neighborhood.
Okay.
And then MayCee jumped right on board, and she thought that was a great idea.
Well, that, because
like it.
I just like this because it gives people a chance to actually just explore and deep dive more into the people that are actually like, hey, I want to step up and represent you.
So people in our neighborhood clearly value whatever it is that you bring to the table. In order to better understand my neighborhood and my fellow Calgarians, like, well, obviously I need to learn about the person that they are going to be voting for. So
All
that's,
right.
yeah. So
Okay.
I'll start with the
Yeah.
first question then, because before we kind of get into like the deeper of the municipality specifics, I'm more so like I'm curious on like, so what is your story leading up to you even making this decision? Like, how long have you been politically involved, and what was your story into even being convicted to do this in the first place?
Okay, well, so I think I know I have like a really robust group of friends, and I would say a lot of our conversations often would end up somewhat political, whether it was municipally or provincially or federally. And I have friends that kind of vote on all sides of those spectrums. So lots of really, I guess, healthy conversations, respectful conversations. And so I think a lot of times those conversations would end up in, well, like you can't complain if you don't vote. And then I would always follow up and say, well, actually, but if you really want change, you need to run. And I would also say that to kids, like our, family friends and their children were in the room on these conversations. And if they were, part of those conversations, which they often were, we would say the same. I would say the same thing. If you really want to make a change in this world, you have to run. So when Peter DeMong announced his retirement, I had some friends that kind of rallied and they said, Erin, run, don't walk. And I said, well, I don't want to be a politician. And I don't. And they said, well, it's a portal for you and you should maybe think about it. So I thought about it for about an hour and I talked to my kids about it. And I did a little bit of research about, if I even qualified for it. And I just actually I had nothing to lose for running, right? So at the time there was only four of us. It was Keener, myself, Landon Johnson, and can't remember who the other one was. Anyways, there was only four at the time, which seemed, reasonable, but now we're seven.
Yeah.
So I think the conviction comes from a place of actually less politics, more community, better management. And I think the conviction started with the blanket rezoning. And that was a big topic amongst, my friends and colleagues. And, we talked a lot about that and how we really just felt I guess there was just a really high level of disrespect for Calgarians' voices throughout those public hearings. And what's the point of doing that and then going ahead and doing it anyway, right? So that's the part about, more community. And, if I were on council and if I coached the Flames and if I ran the country, right, we all have like good ideas about how the world would be completely different. And that's kind of like where it all came from. So it was, I think I've heard many times over the years from friends and colleagues that you should get into politics. But I've always answered that with, but I don't want to be a politician because to me, politicians are different kinds of people. But I see municipal government actually as a different kind of government. It's nonpartisan, and I know there is an element of politics involved, but I see it more of a relationship management skill. Like I see the city of Calgary for what it is. It's a corporation. And I think council, the person who is their council person is the representative of the people, and their job on council is to manage that portion of the city. And like I see it very kind of, I guess, just focused like that. So less politics, better management, right? So more about making decisions like you would in a corporate situation. And I do have a business background, so I see it with that lens. And I think politics actually really makes the whole thing dysfunctional, to be honest. And the parties, actually, I know that's one of the questions you're going to ask me. I think there's already a party going on down there, right? It's an informal party, but like but think about it. It's a table of people that were elected to work together, but they've turned it into a floor, right? Which is does not belong in municipal government. So yeah, so to your question about where's my political background come from, I don't have one at all. I don't even know a politician. So I mean, I'm running on that, and maybe it's a risk to run that way, but it is what it is. It's true. It's the truth about me. Is I'm not doing this to be a politician. I'm doing this to actually get on council and get some stuff done with some other people, minus the politics.
No, I think we've heard that sentiment because as we kind of alluded to in previous episodes, the party thing is new in
Yeah,
Calgary, and we've heard both sides because a lot of people when they hear of party, they think party politics, and you got a party whip,
right.
and that is how it is, just
Yeah,
generally practiced, and how we see it on provincial and federal. So a lot of people we have heard they were and are skeptical of the whole party system.
hmm,
And I mean, rightly so. Even our interview with Keener, he talked about that very thing. He's like, I didn't like the
hmm,
idea of a party. Independence make more sense to him.
right.
Um, and one thing that is funny is what you're saying is that it's become political, and without even there being an official party, it is like there's a
Right.
party, and there's party politics. Without the consent of the people, there is party
Right.
politics. And
Exactly.
so whenever people talk about, not really caring about politics, there's that hackneyed quote where people say, well, politics cares about you because it happens onto you whether you like it
Right.
or not. And I guess the
Right.
blankets rezoning was kind of a classic example. But you said that you and your friends used to talk about politics generally, and you don't have a political background. What was of interest to you then? Was it your just watching provincially, federally that threw you off of political parties?
No,
Like,
no, 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 no. No, I'm not off political parties. I just am off them in municipal government. No, I'm very interested and invested in provincial politics and in federal politics. I just believe fundamentally that municipal government should be nonpartisan. Okay, and I think that that's actually how it's supposed to be. So it's not that I don't have an interest in politics. I don't have an interest in being a politician or
mm-hmm.
seeing politicians or parties in the municipal government because to me, the role of a councillor is to represent the people that elected them. Okay, so currently, as we know, we have a very divided council. So I would say that half of that council is not doing what they were elected to do, which is to listen to their constituents. And I would say that if the city of Calgary was as divided as that council, I think we might be in a civil war because like they're so fundamentally misaligned, right? So to me that's the perfect example of why parties should not be at the municipal level because I am the spokesperson of my ward and every person at council is the same thing, right? And so we collectively have to make decisions on the best options for governing, the best options for policies, the best projects, the best way to spend our money. And I think that that's how I see the city. So I do have an interest in politics, but I believe that we should keep the city municipal government a sacred space of parties.
You have a big task ahead of you.
I understand that. I hear it all the time. Well, I mean, I do hear it sometimes from some people, but here's the thing. I think if I'm the only person who sits on council without a political agenda, it actually makes me the leader. Allowing politics to get into the fiber of council is why it's become so dysfunctional and toxic. And it's gone back, it's not just this past term, like we're talking probably, some people might say the past 16 years, some people might say the past 20. I mean, to me personally, I would say it was around the last 10 years when I saw things really change with the city, and it became less functioning like the corporation that it is and more about politics. And I was, I just, it's not something that I think Calgarians want.
No, you're totally right. That funnily, I have a mug here, and it's Kickley, and it's about kicking. Because that very thing you're saying. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, localism over globalism. But
Hmm.
Kickley
Hmm.
is that organization. They are trying to bring awareness to that very fact. The fact that there is a federal program that has been, it's called the Federal Municipality Program. Like, it's specifically for federal politicians and all of that to get into municipal politics.
Right.
And that
Yeah.
apparently that's been going on since like the 90s. And I only learned that this year, but just learning
Hmm.
about some of those projects that are ongoing,
Hmm.
literal political infiltration into municipalities, which are
Yeah.
supposed to be nonpartisan, as you're saying.
Right.
So you are absolutely right. It is it has been going on for a long time, and
Right.
that's something only even we are just waking up to, just how bad it
Right.
is across all municipalities in Canada.
Exactly.
Yeah, because like
Exactly.
when I was listening to the blanket rezoning, because I wasn't able to go to the actual city hall, but I was listening online to every single person. Like I tuned in
Hmm.
every day to listen to every single
Hmm.
person, and I was like, whoa! And me and Matt even gave our little speeches at it too. We did it through the
Right.
phone, but I was like, my speech was basically going like, look at all these minds that have like literally all these solutions. They've put presentations
Right.
together. They've
Exactly.
done so much hard work to go like, hold on now, this is a terrible idea. And they're like, here's why. And you have realtors, you have
Right.
contractors, and you have like, or just everyday people that just are like, wait, hold on, my life is not surrounded by, I'm no longer a university student. I want my home in my suburban house with my family in the backyard. That's where my journey is right now. It's
Right.
not there. And so
Right.
but when I was listening to that, there were lots of people that were like, oh guys, like you don't understand that city council has like been taken over by stupid organizations. Like Calgary's future was brought up, and then even
Hmm.
like the with Kickley and its idea of the globalism, it's like there's unions that are here, there's money that's
Hmm.
being funded to these
Hmm.
people, and so it's like they're not listening to you because they're already bought and paid for. Like
That's right.
the amount of people that were like, guys, you already made up your minds. I don't know why we're having this discussion because we know you're bought and paid for. I was like, wow, there's a lot of people that
Right.
just know that this is
Right.
about to happen and they're gonna say screw you. And so like
Yeah.
to me it's like that that right there is like a huge cry for help for city council,
Hmm.
because I was like, whoa, like then all you have no incentive to care about the people. And so it's interesting because what you're talking about is like you kind of want to get back to that idea of like, okay, if I'm
Exactly.
sitting here listening to this ideology and that ideology, I'm wondering who the hell is paying you and wondering who the hell is like, what the hell is going on here. It's like, even I would say my one remark to the idea of like not having some sort of like ideology, I like the part where you're saying it's like it's a corporation, so you have to figure out how to manage it, right? So it's like, well, how do
Right.
we best spend the money? How do we best allocate it towards what the people are saying that we should do, right? And if the people are
Exactly.
educated enough to, as we saw, give their presentations and actually like are showing a forthright conviction to, hey, now this is what we're looking
Hmm.
for, then it's like, okay, you should listen. But then on the other hand, where the decisions are coming in where it's like, okay, we're not really having much of public input on this, so it's just like, so what should we do? I don't think you can eliminate the ideology entirely, because even with some
No.
of the people that were getting bought and paid for some of like the climate change agendas, when they spend
Hmm.
like millions on the stupid climate emergency thing, it's like you can't
Yep.
eliminate the factor that it's like, well,
No.
hold on, is this actually scientifically prudent, scientifically useful? I mean, we've been alive this long and carbon emissions have been going all around for how long
Right.
now? So it's like
Right.
you can't eliminate your ideology or your input. So, I mean, I would say like you can't get rid of that entirely, but I do agree that it's like if you want to get back to the basics though, it's listening to the people.
That's right. That's right. And I will say that I believe that financial sensibility and environmental stewardship are not mutually exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
But you can have both. You can
Mm-hmm.
be both. But the key word there is sensibility, right? And at some level, I believe that Calgarians deserve say, but that's actually received. And something like the $87 billion climate action plan is something, if I were on council, I would be like, actually, we need to have some thresholds in place and some levels of spending that require some public engagement, because there are majority shareholders, and we actually also sit on here as shareholders, and this is also our money.
Mm.
So that's something that I think people would expect. If we're shareholders in a publicly traded company, we can just sell out our shares and leave. Not really an option when this is the city that we've chosen to live in. But
Mhm.
we still pay to live here every single day. We do. Like, it comes out of our, as you know, the taxes, our property taxes. We pay like a massive line on our NMAX bills. When we use facilities, like we pay for it every day. So, the return on that investment is shareholder value, and value is not always about money, right? It's also about the things that we value, the things that matter to us. And so, obviously, there are people in Calgary that care about the environment, and there are people in Calgary that care about money. And we have to find some sort of like sensible common ground with these people and make decisions that best serve all Calgarians. And I believe Calgarians want to be engaged in that process. We can't micromanage and ask Calgarians to manage the city for us, but there should be some levels in place that would, I guess, trigger, whether it's public engagement or whatever. I don't know if you need to have a public hearing or if you have to have a plebiscite vote, but for me, if I get on council, I'll have an interactive voting measure on my website that's tied to the city of Calgary. So any items that are coming down at council meetings or committee meetings that affect Ward 14 or like larger city of Calgary items, the people in Ward 14, the verified residents of Ward 14, can vote and show me how to vote. Right. And then I keep a transparent voting record to support that I actually listen to them. That's actually how accountability works. And it's, and even if I'm the only one on council doing that, that actually also makes me the leader, and it will trickle down. Other people will expect the same thing. But there has to be a level of trust, but it's going to have to be rebuilt. And I think that respectful gesture of allowing Calgarians to have a say at some level, will help restore some of that trust.
On the note of like public engagement, how long have you been door knocking now?
Well, actually, that's kind of a funny thing that you're asking that, because I'm actually not really a door knocker. But I talk to almost 100 people a day, every day. But I find them in the community. I do a little bit of door knocking because when I got my signs, I did some door knocking and asked if I could put up my signs. But I know it seems like I'm going to give away the golden secret, but I will. But I go to grocery stores and I help people out with their groceries. I go to the lake parking lots and I Sherpa their wagons up to the lake entrances. I go down to Fish Creek Park. I go to dog parks. People don't answer their doors. And I don't think that my literature is impactful enough, right? People have to have that connection with me, in order to hear why they should vote for me. Something else that I do is, on my website. I don't know you guys went on it, but I have a tab with all the Ward 14 candidates on there, and I tell every single person that I talk to that they're there and that they need to do their research and they need to make an educated vote. And it's just from the sprawl, right? So it's all there. It's just the sprawl is the source. And because I believe in transparency, I believe in voter education, and I just think it's really important that people vote this time. And I don't think it's right for people to vote for the person that they met only, or the piece of literature that they got, because I'm not going to be able to get out to 30,000 doors. I'm like so independent that it's actually literally just me, right? So this came out of just some innovation on my own. I'm like, well, how am I going to get to all these people? So I go find them. And every morning I leave the house with 100 pieces of literature, and I don't come home until they're gone. Well, some days I leave when there's 20 left. Um, but that's how it's going. And I would say that my message of less politics, more community, better management is overwhelmingly positively received by just about every single person I talk to. And it's not a hard sell. people, and then I give them the option to go and do their research. And then lots of times I come home at night and I have 3 sign requests because I tell them that's how you can endorse me. Because private placement of my lawn sign means that I'm being endorsed by someone privately.
Yeah.
And that means that's priceless compared to putting stuff up on boulevards, which we'll all be doing obviously in a couple weeks here. But that speaks volumes about who's being endorsed.
Totally. That's like we said at the beginning. That's part of the reason we
Yeah,
wanted to reach out to you is because, our
yeah,
neighborhood is endorsing Erin Averbukh, and I wanted to know
yeah.
why.
Yeah, yeah. And, I've had my signs for 2 weeks and I have, I think, 75 out, which, I mean, obviously I have some friends as well. I won't lie. I mean, they endorse me, but, just like
How
people out in the
dare they?
wild. How dare
Bias.
they? It's right. Yeah. But, people out in the wild are also, very interested in supporting me. And I think it's because I'm really bringing something different to the table, and it is less politics, more community, better management, and people are ready for it. We are like,
Yeah.
if there's any way to unwind a clock, like let's do it. Same thing with kids and cell phones. I mean, honestly, I think if we could turn back the hands of time, we would. Right. And so, if there's any way that we can reverse course on municipal government with respect to bringing partisan politics into it, I know Calgarians will sign up for that all day. And like I said, if I'm the only one on there, that makes me the leader and others will follow because that's how it's supposed to be. And other people in Calgary will say, hey, like I want somebody like that on sitting at council for me too. Somebody who's just going to represent me and my community and work together with council to make decisions that take Calgary from greatness to excellence.
I'm curious. So you've been going around and meeting people. So this wasn't a question that we pre-wrote, but I was just like, I was curious in the
Yeah.
sense of what is some of the things that I guess when you're listening to people and they talk about, what are they concerned about that you've
Mhm,
taken note of that you're like, oh, like this is a genuinely good thing to be concerned about. And
mhm.
also what is some of the, like when you're meeting with the people of Ward 14 and they're kind of talking to you about what it is that they're concerned about, what is the thing that I think is striking to you and important, but also something that challenges you as you're trying to figure out how to best represent these people?
Okay, so I would say the line in the sand is probably Midnapore. And so anything Midnapore North, right out of the gates, what are your thoughts on blanket rezoning? Right? And that's the easy, that's I hear it 90% of the time. Um, South of Midnapore, like down into Legacy, I think people are concerned about spending.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people bring up the climate action plan. And the lack of transparency, right? Like people having to file freedom of information requests to find out how they spend our money.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say I mean, everybody's kind of worried about the same things. I've only heard a few unique things that have been to the table where I've had to think about it. But a lot of the questions and the concerns are the same. Most people will say something about the mayor, and they'll ask me who I'm going to vote for. And then, because that's how they'll define me, right? Because they'll say,
Right.
well, who are you going to vote for mayor? And I know a politician would skirt around that issue and not answer it, but I answer it every single time because I don't have anything to hide, right? And then sometimes I know I come across people that might not be, they might not vote the same way as I do federally or provincially, but I can correct them and say, look, because municipal government is nonpartisan, right? And at the end of the day, I think the bottom line is the bottom line, no matter what side of the political spectrum you are on, right? And um, people value, right? And so,
Mm.
um, the ideological stuff that comes with the left side is something that I obviously don't support, and I think I make that pretty clear that like what I had said earlier, we they're not mutually exclusive, but we don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater either, right? We can be both. So I think most of the people are just they're ready for change. I think people were just the last few days. I don't know if you saw the polls on Global. But a lot of people did. And our current mayor is, she's polling at the top, and people are like appalled. And I'm like, well, then you better vote, right? And you better go get your grandma and your aunt and, your friend down the street who's in a cast and can't drive or whatever, and like get people out to vote, because that's where change is. Because 46% of Calgarians voting in the last election is why we're here, and why we have a group of people on council who aren't doing their job, who are voting to, like, they've made their own party. They have a little block. It's a block party.
Yeah.
It's a block party. And some of them are leaving. Some of them are, well, I think there's a couple staying, but I think for sure one just announced last week she's going to stay. But yeah, that's where change has to come from, is obviously through more people voting. And so with 8 vacancies on council, I guess change is coming.
I sure hope so, for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't know that the Gondek was coming up at the top. I tend not to go to the mainstream medias for my news.
You know what I hate
Right.
about polls,
Right.
though, is that the thing I hate about polls is that sometimes and I don't even think that this is like a conspiracy theory. I think this is a legitimate like fact where
Yeah.
polling went and came from, and how it was like psychologically meant to manipulate the masses. Where it's just like,
Yeah.
if a poll says that, oh, like Gondek is the most popular right now, blah, 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 some people are like, oh shoot, like maybe I should be voting for Gondek, blah, blah, blah. And then it just like it influences
Right.
the masses towards this thing, because it's like, well, everybody's doing this.
We just saw it in our federal election, because I would say Donald Trump was the biggest pollster of them all. He totally affected that election, I would say. But interesting about polls, a few years ago I was listening to 770 like on the radio, and this pollster guy came on, and he said something that at the time I was like, oh, well then obviously they're true. He said, listen, we're polling companies, and it's our job to get it right. And so that's what our mandate is. So polls are just about always right. And so I was like, oh, well, they are. But then I think in the last few elections that I've seen, like either like ours in Canada or, provincially or federally or even in the US, they're not. They're not always right. And they cost money. So somebody's paying for them. And I don't know. I kind of wondered, like, well, so this poll that they just did, who'd they poll?
That's
They clearly
the
didn't
primary
poll
question.
anybody.
Yeah.
They didn't poll anybody in Ward 14.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
You're kind of going like, where did you go and find these people exactly?
Right.
Because then you got to reverse correlate all the people who didn't answer the questions. Like,
yeah, and it just happened to be on, and I saw it, and so actually it was a little bit of a skewed answer too, because it said 45% were still undecided. But it went in this order. So Gondek, I think, was around 15%. Farkas had 1% less than her, and then Sonia Sharp was a couple less than him, and then Jeff Davison, who's actually my pick, was like 3%. So and then Brian Thiessen was like 2%. So I was surprised actually to see that in general, because well, I don't believe that Jody Gondek is who's people in Ward 14 are going to pick. And I think that Jeff Davison will probably get a lot more votes than that pollster was indicating.
Yeah, there was a podcast that I listened to a couple weeks back, and it was Bill Gates he came out with every year he would put out some of his favorite books, and he said one of the books that he put out a couple of years back was How to Lie with Statistics. I was like, that sounds great coming from Bill Gates.
He probably wrote it. He was probably like the ghostwriter.
That's probably true. That's misinformation, everybody.
That and also
we said probably. Yeah.
Well, that and also wait, how dare you use the scientific method?
Exactly.
But even if the outcome becomes where it's like, sometimes I think if Jody was to get in, it's like, then it's like makes the public, I guess, a bit more psychologically like, oh well, yeah, like the polls kind of showed it was gonna happen anyway, so it's fine. And it's like, but what if it's like, even the idea of like, was it tampered, or in the sense of just like, okay, like a lot of things, like as you said, it's like, where's the money going towards, like all of the ways as to how she got in the first place, because how you get in is very hard to freaking paper trail, right? And so it's just like, oh, it might make people more okay with the fact that this happened. Or alternatively, what it could do is for those who are a bit more towards, I don't know, like Jeff Davidson, for example, because they're like, oh, well, he seems like the exact opposite, right? It's like, then it could stir the division, right? Because then some people would be like, oh, like, there's no way, like, polls are lying, blah, 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 and like, our guys should have gotten it. And just like the division, I'm like, man, like, they win either way.
That's right.
It sucks.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And yeah, they play those political games. And they're beyond me, right? Like I don't even understand them, right? So I'm not playing I'm playing like the unapologetically authentic person who has nothing to hide, right? And really nothing to lose. I think that's the difference between me and a politician.
That's very authentic, and we appreciate authentic people.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. Like I'm either gonna take the whole thing, or I'm gonna get last place. But yeah, I wasn't gonna do this not being myself.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
so now my last thing for me, or I mean, it might not be last thing, depends on, I guess, what you say. It makes my brain go,
Yeah.
woo. But so me and Maddie, like, we interviewed Keener because we were actually like, we joined the ABC board ourselves because we were like, oh,
Yeah.
like a municipal party that's wanting to promote grassroots people. I'm like, yeah, sure. Because
Right.
all freaking parties start out with good intentions, right? And then, of course, the road to hell can be paved with good intentions, right?
Right.
So it's like,
Right.
yeah, you start off great. So I'm like, I'm hopping on the bandwagon because it's early, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna see how this goes, right? Because once you get in new directors, new like I guess CEOs or whatever, just whoever comes in, it could change completely, right? And so you never know. It's like parties shift so much as well, just based on who the hell's in them. So we joined, and so it was kind of like Keener didn't want to join it at first because he was like, I'd rather go independent because I don't want a party line, right? But then afterwards, he was like, I saw, though, that they didn't really have it explicitly where it's just like, here's the policies that we want you to aim towards. They had principles where it's just like family, community, common sense. And like those were some of the principles. And he was like, yeah, I can get behind that. How that works and if it actually is successful, it's an experiment. I'm not going to admit anything as if it's a glorious fucking thing. It's like, no, we're literally going to see how it turns out. I have no clue. But like you said, but in order to figure out how you're going to manage it and if it's going to go well, you got to go in it. So that's why we joined. And so to keep holding it accountable. So I guess my question is like the idea of what you were saying where you don't want politics to get in the mix. I'm like, sometimes I think that people like you would join those types of things because I'm like, oh, like you're the type of person where, yeah, like you're not necessarily going to be like, oh, you're this or you're that. You'll be sitting there going like, hey guys, like we're on this board to try and support so-and-so to try and lift them up. And in your case, it would be you. So it'd be like, guys, as a board, I'm looking for you to like support me. And this is what I'm thinking. And like, if you're wanting to, cause you're part of Ward 14 yourself, it's like, if you're wanting to help out, this is how you do it. If you're not wanting to help out, then I don't even know why you're on the board. Right. So it's just all these things. Right. But I'm like, cause what happened to the dialogue? Like, what, you're right, it's not exclusive. Like, why are we not trying to find the middle ground and find the bridge? It's like instantly it becomes political because you literally removed yourself and now we're in an echo chamber. I'm like, well, that's not helpful. Like,
Exactly.
Being involved in, and me and MayCee haven't run for anything, though a couple of other people running for other councilors that we've interviewed are like, you guys should run. We're on boards and trying to be involved. Maintaining the bottom line. Don't know if I'm like you, Erin. I don't really want to be a politician, but I'll get on a board. That was the thing that sold me about ABC in the beginning anyway, just to get on, was the fact that they had ward boards, because we got on and then I got to meet a bunch of people in our ward that I didn't even know you were my neighbor.
I didn't even know you were.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one thing that I did appreciate, was just having the fact that you, like on the provincial level, they have CA boards, and now this ABC party has ward associations, not constituencies. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But on every level, including even in political alignments, I remember we were volunteering for a pancake breakfast, and I was telling some of the other volunteers, personally, if my constituency was NDP or Liberal, I'm buying a membership so I can be on the CA board. I don't care. Like, they were saying you have to go with your values, and it's like, I agree. But first of all,
Right.
that's even kind of, because like you said, the financial, being financially frugal, and then being environmentally stewardship, you can have both on both parties. Like, both
Right.
have different dynamics of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's too dichotomous to go, oh, the Liberal or the NDP,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, have different values than the right. To me, they are already, then you're painting the dichotomy, and then you've
That's right.
already split the people, and that's where you kind of said in the beginning, it ruins the municipal side of things, because all of us share a lot of the same values, and then
Right.
putting the label upon it just throws everything off. So that's one thing that
100%.
you've said that does resonate with me, because I wouldn't really care what political parties doing their thing. I need to be involved because it's happening to me. So,
Right.
and that's one thing that people are still negotiating when it comes to being involved in politics.
Yes. So, okay. So first of all, I'm going to go to this thing that I've actually, I've had this epiphany, just recently out in the wild. Um, and so I feel like, okay, so our leaders, and
Mm.
it's about the dichotomy, exactly that. So the leaders of our country and of our province and like the world leaders, they are the only ones on the planet who have given themselves uh, a buy on having to negotiate, compromise, be flexible, tolerate. It's either you're with them or you're against them.
Mm.
And their job is to stand there and yell at the other side of the floor and say, "You're bad." And then the other guy on the other side of the floor says, "You're worse." And there's no common ground, right?
Oh my gosh, so true.
Our leaders of the
Mm.
world are the ones who are creating all of this division. You and I, we have to go to work, we have to go to school, we have to talk to our neighbors, we have to negotiate and tolerate and compromise and be reasonable every day of our lives.
Amen.
And so why are like these people that are supposed to be our leaders
Mm-hmm.
exempt, right? So obviously I'm not going to burn down government and change the whole system, but it's something to think about for sure. But I think like at that municipal level, there's an opportunity for councillors to actually sit together at that table, because actually that's what that is. A table for counselors is a group of people that are elected to work together. So, but if you and I worked for the UCP or the NDP, we would be in government, and there would be a floor, and those are two different ways of functioning. And so I see the opportunity for Calgary actually to be maybe leaders in our whole society of in Canada, to have actually a city council who is working together to make the city better. And with an emphasis on value and fiscal sensibility, and societal sensibility, and then include the community a little more. And instead of asking for forgiveness, ask for permission, right? Like, oh, by the way, we bought 125 EV buses. What? Who said that? You could. Like, who approved that? Right? And so these are like questions as a citizen I would want to know, and as a
Yeah.
counselor I would demand that
Mm.
the people of Calgary know the answers. Like, okay, so are we replacing 125 buses that are broken? Are we
Mm-hmm.
expanding transit and we need 125 new buses? Can we maybe do 10 and do a pilot project on them and see if they work? And then we'll talk about getting some more. How much were they? Because maybe we could have just taken the green line to Seaton, right? So there's just a lack of, I see collaboration, and maybe I don't see enough. Maybe that's going on behind closed doors. I'll never claim to know everything that's going on at the city of Calgary, because I don't know. But as an outsider looking in, it doesn't look like there's a whole bunch of collaboration. People like that council, those 15 people sitting together and going, okay, so this is let's make a decision that best serves Calgarians. That's the best value. right? That is not only tied to their money, but tied to their values. And then, there's an opportunity to grow and be better from there. But don't ask people for their input and then not share it, or not put a plan together to be better. I say this to my kids all the time. And there's a book actually, at the chapters. It's a kid's book. It's called Try Harder to Be Better. And I say it to my kids probably 8 times a week. I've been saying it for 20 almost years. And 100%, like, I think fundamentally as human beings, that is what we should all be doing. And city council needs to be doing that. People who work in teams at companies, they need to do that. We just need to be trying harder to be better. There's human beings are amazing at evolution. We are. So keep going.
That reminded me of when we were talking about the whole floor versus an actual like round table discussion, right? And like having to actually work together. Because like when it's frustrating because now that like my brain's like pinging right now to just like the fight and battle of statistics, right? Because it's like on the floor it'll be like, well, my statistics say, right? It's like the idea of like, well, trust my science, no, trust my science. It's like, what happened to science? Like, and the idea of like, even the idea of people where it's just like try harder to be better. It's like, okay, so if you want something and you feel convicted where it's like either you're saying this is a problem or you're saying, no, this is not a problem, stop that, right? It's like, and then you source your material and then like they source their material. Well, then you have to ask yourself the question of like, well, who put out that material, right? What's their incentive into putting it out and why are they putting it out for this reasons, right? It's like, because maybe are they trying to make us believe this is a problem or is it a legitimate problem, right? And most of the time you're going to find it's probably actually a bit of both. It's a bit of, no, like we actually in this area of this thing, because aspects like it's not so dichotomous. It's like problems have aspects to them. So it's just oh, environment. It's like all of it is like carbon and CO2 bad and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, hold on. Like maybe in this domain, we might see some problems. Maybe in that domain, like 90% is like bullshit. You know what I mean? But this 10%, maybe we can compromise, right? Or the idea of like, but where did your statistics come from? Because if they came from this think tank, then I'm a little bit like skeptical, you know what I'm saying? And like, then it's that idea of what you just said of like it's try harder to be better. Is that it?
Try harder to be better.
Yeah. Then it's that idea of like, then you as not only the leader, but also the people can now start following suit and going like, well, hold on, like where is the incentives coming from? And also what aspects can we actually maybe potentially compromise on so that way we can lift each other up better as a culture. It's like if you are
and get something done.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you're not figuring out how to actually like be financially frugal, right? Then how in the hell is your citizenry supposed to figure that out? Like,
right. Yeah. So I totally see a lot of opportunities. Whereas I think a typical politician would see a lot of the problems, and I see that there's a lot of opportunities for things to just be better, right? More collaboration, less divisiveness, less just like you're either with us or against us, and it's just not it's not healthy, right? It's not how normal people exist in the world. So, and I definitely don't think much gets done under those circumstances either.
I appreciate the positive outlook on humanity because that's lacking nowadays. We've got a culture that they literally see humanity as a plague, and it is not a healthy way to look at your fellow human being. So I appreciate your sanguine perspective. On that note, I'm going to show everybody here your website. How do people reach out to you if they want to do this thing? What is your final wrap up?
It's lawn signs, honestly. It's not even money. That's so funny. I shouldn't say that, but I mean, it's just lawn signs, because I really feel like those private endorsements are on private property. That's what's going to do it, right? People are going to go, well, who's this? And I have a QR code on my lawn sign, so hopefully people go to my website. It's a 3-minute read. And I think it's really clear who I am and what I stand for. And it's like, in a nutshell, it's less politics, more community, better management, right? And so that's as concise as I could make it, but it's in that order. And so, yeah, I think that's the best way to support me. I mean, money's nice too. I might run
Money
out of
pays
signs.
for
I don't
lawn
know.
signs.
Well,
Money pays for lawn signs.
well, and so that's true. It's true. It's true. But the donations that I've received, and I've put my donors up on my page, they're all private, like just my friends and stuff. And so far, I'm net and zero, so I'm in good shape. If I need more than 400 lawn signs, then yeah, I'll probably need some money. But I am allowed to self-fund up to a certain amount. So if I had to throw in a few $100 for some lawn signs, I would for sure. Because I'm just actually really grateful for the whole opportunity to run. And I'm really super grateful for all of the support that I've had so far. And like I said, it's been overwhelmingly positive. And
I just want to say,
see
look
see
how
how it goes.
transparent that is.
I know,
Like,
you got
that's
donors
insane.
on here, and then even
hmm
the fact that you have the Ward 14 candidates so people can do
Yeah,
their research is a
yeah,
brilliant idea, and I don't
yeah.
know why other people don't do it.
Well, they should. I have nothing to hide. I really don't. And I don't, I just want people to vote. And whoever they vote for, they should be voting for the person that they most align with their values, right? Because I think a lot of, well, I guess democracy gets a little bit slippery, of course, when only 46% of Calgarians vote. But when people just vote for a name because they saw their flyer and they say, well, I did vote, but I'm still complaining. Well, then you weren't an educated voter if you voted for someone who didn't act on the values that they were elected on. If those were
hmm
your values and there's somebody else, right? So that's why I really try to connect with that many people a day, just to get that that authentic connection with people, so they know exactly, like, I am who I am when it is what it is, and there's no confusion about who I am, right? So they have that connection with me, and they're in it or they're not. I did have a meeting actually with one MLA. Her assistant said, you should come talk to my boss. And so I had a meeting with her, and she said, so what are you doing with all your data? Oh, so I've almost disclosed her by calling her, but she said, what are you doing with all your data? And I said, what data? And she said, well, like, how are you going to phone these people, tell them to vote for you on election day? And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna. They're either going to vote for me or they're not. And they're either voters or they're not. Right. So I think, how I'm campaigning is a little cowboyish. And it's either, like I said, it's either going to take me over the line huge, or, it won't. But at the end of the day, it is who I am. And I'm not, changing gears and campaigning like a politician just wouldn't feel authentic. And I don't think, I'd do very well if I was doing it like that.
Well, as an Albertan, I think cowboyish is perfectly fine by me. You said 11 generations Canadian,
Yep.
and
Yep. My kids. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
They're the 11th. I'd say I'm the 10th. Yeah. Well, I'm from Regina. I moved here from Regina in 1996. Yeah. That was a long time ago. A long time ago. So I'm 53. So I've been here over half my life for sure.
You do not look
no,
53.
that
Oh, well, thank
Not
you.
at all.
that was so
Thank you.
surprising.
And I'm not lying. Like, people tell me their
Oh,
age, and I'm not the type to be like, "Oh no, you look so young." No, I mean that.
oh, well, I think if I get elected, I definitely have like some demong time ahead of me. I could definitely put in 4 terms, no problem. I'm in good
Aw.
shape. I'm sharp. I could easily do 4 terms, and then everybody might get tired. I'll be 69.
And hopefully politics doesn't take 10 years off you like it does a lot of other
No,
people.
that's true. That's true.
Mm.
And yeah, and I definitely wouldn't go anywhere beyond city council. That's one thing I've said to a lot of people, is that I would never, I'm not using this to get into another level of government. Like, this is like, if I get on, like, I'll stay and I will do a lot of great work. But if I don't get on, I'm not going to try again in 4 years either, because a politician would strategize for the next 4 years on how to win. And I'm not a politician, right? So I will move on to do something else. I'll pick up a project, or I don't know, maybe I'll buy a condo in Costa Rica. I don't know. Yeah, this is a one-shot deal for me, and I'd say it's a one-shot deal for Ward 14, really. And so if they're ready for some kind of refreshing change at council, that is like on their vote.
Well, maybe this is not me saying it as like oh, this is what I hope, but I meant like well, maybe if Keener ended up getting in and became our counselor, you can come on Ward 14 on the board and come scrutinize him with us.
Okay, for sure. I wish them all the best, and I really hope the best man wins. And I really believe that all of us have intentions to do great things, right? So I'm not campaigning on anything negative about any of them. I'm not. I think that they all want to do a good job, as much as I do. They just will do it differently than I will, which is, it is what it is, right? So,
I cannot
um,
believe you misgendered yourself and said the best man wins. 'Cause you're... I'm kidding.
well, if we only female in the race, yeah, I guess so. But, yeah.
No, me and MayCee went to it was the Calgary Girls School. Now it's the Calgary Girls Charter School.
Right. Yep.
And I got flack from my teacher because I had said, "Okay, guys, let's go," and she went, "You are girls. You are not guys. Don't go."
Oh boy.
I was like, "Oh goodness, I beg your pardon."
Yeah. That's one thing I can probably guarantee. If I get on council, I'm gonna fuck up with the political correctness because I don't have it. Full stop. Uh, Something will happen, and I will get called out for doing something like, and I will just be oblivious to it because that's just a part of who I am for
You
sure.
just look at him and be like, "You see those roads? You see how they're smooth? Shut up."
Basically, yeah. I'm not sugarcoating very much, that's for sure. So a big part of my platform actually is about youth. Let me talk about that super quick because I feel like there is a bit of a gap. Like when I grew up, after school, we had access to the gym at the school because all our parents worked, and so we could stay and play basketball, and the community centers had dances, and it was different, right? And so I really feel like there is a missing component to that within our communities with youth, and it's a long game for me. I see there's protracted positive effects to bringing that back into our society. I see mental health issues declining, sorry, mental wellness increasing. I see also an opportunity for public safety. I think idle hands can be the devil's workshop, and that's probably not a very politically correct thing to say, but I believe when youth don't have healthy environments to be mentored or work with teams, or meet other kids, that's things brew, and they might not be well, or they might get into trouble. And so I would really like to use my opportunity on council, if I get on there, to bring that to Calgary. We're pretty lucky here in Ward 14. I'm going to say socioeconomically, I think we're not obviously a super wealthy neighborhood, but most of us have kids that we were able to put into swimming lessons, or a dance class or whatever, but they're very expensive things to do. And not all families have that privilege to do it. And not all families can come home and be home with their kids after school either because they're working. So I just, that's where my headspace is going about youth and the long game of mental wellness and public safety. And it really starts with this next generation of kids, right? And giving them opportunities to, I guess, have more social interactions, like the dances. I'll tell you, my son, we had his bar mitzvah, and we invited, like, I don't know, about 70 kids, and 80 of them, just kidding, but like 50 of them had never ever danced. They'd never been to a wedding, right? And it was just so, it was crazy for me to think that these kids, like, had never danced before, right? They didn't have the opportunity to do that. And like when I was a kid, like, we had stuff going on all the time for those kind of social events. And I think we need to bring some of that back into society. It will benefit families. It will benefit kids. I think it's affordable, and I'd like to kind of be a part of, like, steering the ship in that direction. And I don't know, don't be dumb and use your thumb all the time, kind of thing, on your phones, right? And try and again, like, unwind that clock a little bit, right? And bring other opportunities to the table for kids, that are better than screens and whatever else they're doing, but it's all screens, it seems like, right?
Well, council or not, sounds like we got to get together and do a Ward 14 dance block party.
We do. We do. 100%. My son's a DJ. So
Perfect.
yeah,
Good.
so he could do it. And he just heard me talking about try harder to be better, and he gave me the look. It's like, Mom, that's what it is. So,
No,
yeah, well, it was a really great pleasure, ladies. Thank you so much for reaching out to me. It was awesome.
thank you for responding and being open enough to have the conversation with this.
Of course.
Some people want 20-minute conversations. This was an hour.
Perfect.
Without further ado, this has been Politics at Home with Holmes.
Yeah.